Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Spaying the Need. I'm your host, Anthony Spano. Tonight, we got a fellow community involvement guy that loves to be in the boxing ring, and I love to be in the boxing ring on my debut and retirement all in the same night. TV reality star from Amazing Race and financial advisor Ray Housteau. Ray, thanks for joining me tonight.
Glad to be here.
Ray, and we go back a while,
Yeah, we do.
and with community involvement, and we'll talk a little bit about that down a little bit later in the conversation. And you've had some experience traveling the world, which we haven't had much to do with the pandemic. Talk a little bit about your background and kind of how you got to now, and we'll talk more in depth about some of the reality show stuff that you were involved with and some other stuff. So talk a little bit about your background and kind of where you are to now.
I'm just a guy that went to Wilson High School. It's a high school that doesn't even exist anymore. And I grew up in just a great family with, a community that was a hardworking, real community. And, I'm still friends with everybody I was friends with way back. I worked hard. I went to school. I learned. I went to Youngstown State, among others. And I became a financial advisor over 3 decades ago. And that's what I do. Back in the early part of 2015, I was on a reality show called The Amazing Race. And there's a whole list of other things that I touched upon. We did a really, really fun boxing charity event. And I've always had a background in that area, and still go to gyms and try to keep myself from letting the aging process catch up with me.
Well, I think the aging is catching up with all of us in the pandemic.
Father Time is undefeated, so.
Hey, I don't know. People are still saying Low Boy beat me and I beat Low Boy, so I'm still looking for the cards on that.
I got to tell you, I sparred with you, and you, my rib, I think you cracked it. So you were all right. I was impressed.
Thank you, but I ain't getting back into the ring.
The training part of it is a blast.
The training part is fun. We'll talk a little bit about that. So what I wanted to talk about was a little bit about what's going on right now, because as you know, you're handling a variety of stuff with the pandemic and really seeing a lot of versatile with people losing their jobs, with people you're seeing up 50-60% in food lines. How has the market been handling itself? And we'll talk a little bit about finance, we're going to be talking about a lot of different stuff tonight. I wanted to hit on this because I think this hits home to everyone, is financials. And with the pandemic going on right now, how has the last year been with the markets, just in general, what you've seen?
Well, strangely enough, when this all happened, the markets really overreacted. Well, I don't know if they overreacted because they really had no idea what it is that they were dealing with. So we had that big drop right at the beginning of all this. And every stock was literally cut in half, and maybe even more than that. But a strange thing happened as the pandemic progressed. It's people that were locked up and that really didn't have much more to do stayed home and started learning about how to take advantage of some of the opportunities that this pandemic ended up creating, and not only in the market and business and economics and everything else. I've never seen a public as educated and aware of investing as I see right now. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that they had nothing else to do but study up on this and watch it and follow it and become almost addicted to all this. So the market has reflected that, and it's really stayed up and hasn't really felt much of an effect from the pandemic at all.
Do you think people have, I think I like to look at it this way, is a lot of people got laid off. I mean, huge numbers of people, March, April, May. Do you see a lot of that now gaining strength? I mean, we're now in May, June, around that time. And do you see just the market continuing to where it is, or do you think we'll hit another? Because I think you look at it this way: what is it, 8 to 10 years? There's a correction, as they call it, in the financial.
Well, that's not something that you could actually absolutely guess or plan that is going to happen. But yeah, by and large, you expect those, and there's nothing wrong with that. People are worried about that, and they refer to that as if it's some sort of thing that needs to, some evil reaction in the market that needs to be avoided. And it's just a natural thing. It happens, and honestly, that's where opportunities present themselves. So when the next correction is going to be, I really don't know. There's things that are happening economically that sooner or later will probably have a negative effect on the market. But at this stage of the game, I think the demand and the productivity of different industries, people adjusting to things that evolved out of what happened with the pandemic, are fueling a lot of growth in the market. How long that'll go, I don't know.
Right. Well, yeah, I don't think anyone knows. If we did, we'd be billionaires like the Bill Gateses or those guys that just know they know exactly when to hit the markets. I just don't understand.
Some of them don't. They made their money in what they know, and that the rest of it, they don't really have much better of a track record than we do. But they made so much money on what it is that got them there that they're doing all right.
And this is just a personal question. Do you see more when at the beginning of this, around the April, May, June of last year, did you see, or maybe just the length, did you see money being pulled out of the market, or did you see money being put into the market? Because I always like to say, okay, you had people with 401ks. The government released the bill that said, hey, if you take out money out of your 401k or those IRAs, you weren't going to be penalized like you normally are.
Yeah, surprisingly, at least from my perspective, I saw way more people that contacted me looking at ways to take advantage of what was happening in the market as opposed to panicking and pulling their money out. And when they did call and ask about that, because people, uncertainty does breed some panic. And not a lot of people experience that from my point of view, but the ones that did, I was able to talk them down off the ledge and let them know that I do think that if they didn't need the money and they were able to let it sit for any length of time, that this was an opportunity. So to answer your question, I didn't see much money coming out at all. I saw a lot more money going in and people recognizing the fact that this is not a permanent situation and it's an opportunity.
Well, and that's some good advice that anyone can take. So if you want more advice, call Ray. He'll be happy to give it to you in a variety of different ways. Well, and you've been a financial advisor, broker, and you're also the owner of Capital Group of America. So it's not like you've just happened to be in this for 5 or 6 years. You've been in it for a long time. And it's funny because you look at it and say, okay, now you get this letter or an email or a call and saying, hey, you want to be on a TV reality show called The Amazing Race, and I'd love to know how did that expire? Like, did you? So it was with your explain all that.
I became friends with people that were on Survivor, and actually, at first, I was supposed to be on that through. They had referred me to the casting people, and I was actually cast on one of the Survivors. But 2 weeks before they took off, there was something that happened, and they decided to take a different person. So that went away. And a couple of years later, I was dating somebody, and she knew that I had this experience or near experience. And she submitted our names and a tape to do a show called The Amazing Race. The same people cast that as who cast Survivor. But they didn't remember me. It was a few years later, and they talked to so many people, and I didn't really get on that show. I was cast, but I never really made it onto that. So we started a brand new process where we went through interview after interview after interview and flew all over, and there were something like 70,000 people that submitted tapes to be on this particular season of the race. And we kept making it through each level and going on and on and on. And finally, we ended up in Los Angeles, and we were cast. And it was, truly the adventure of a lifetime. I mean, I can't explain to you the experience and do it justice. It really was an amazing thing to participate in.
What places? I mean, you talk a little bit about just the experience. Talk a little bit about that, because you would expect that, hey, I'm getting to go all over the world through at least 4 or 5 stages. Now, just so everyone's aware, he was on The Amazing Race season 7, and I think they're on season 20 now on all of
30, 30 something. I don't even know what it is now. Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's 2 a year.
Oh, so that, yeah. Talk about the reality show and how it was behind the scenes and during this race, because when you watch it on TV, you're like, why are you doing that? I would do this. And it's kind of one of the, like, you're second guessing yourself.
Well, you have to. First of all, you're racing around the world for $1 million with, at that time, 15 million people watching you. The level of stress, because any move at all and you're gone. But most importantly, you have no idea where everybody else is ever. So you can't ever relax. You can't ever take in these beautiful things that you're experiencing. I look at some of those episodes and I can't watch them because I didn't win that season, and it still gets to me.
Still have a little sore thorn in the side that you want rematch.
I can't digest the fact that I didn't win that. We went from first to being eliminated all in one episode to the next. So it was, it was a kind of thing where I look back on everything that we did and all the experiences we had, and I don't remember much of it when it happened. You're overwhelmed with the situation, with the stress. And that's the biggest thing I would tell you, is that it is absolutely the most amazing thing I went through, but also the most endless stressful situations that I've ever been in.
More stress than what you are experiencing now in your job?
This is nothing. I'm not stressed at all in this. Again, with the market doing whatever it does, I look for opportunities and ways for people to capitalize on whatever the situation is. And I'm good at that. But to be judged every single second and maybe have your dream go away, because it becomes a dream. It wasn't, before I got on that amazing race, something I set my whole life, or spent it wanting to do. But once I was cast, that's all I did was become obsessed with being able to win that. So every second, not knowing if you're going to be eliminated or where you are, that is endless stress. What I'm doing now is nothing. I'm good at what I do, and I'm very confident in what I do.
What was kind of one of the best moments on that show when you were doing it? Because what people don't see is, okay, you finish third, first, second, or third, or whatever. Do you get a break? Like, do you get a day off, or are you right? You see, because people will say, well, they're back at it like right away.
You get 12 hours, maybe to 24 hours in what's called a pit stop. And yeah, you do get to take a break, but you could be sleeping on the floor of a bus station, or you could be, anywhere, wherever that happens to be between those legs. And it was tough back then. It was a lot different than it is now, because I understand they do end up, having pretty good accommodations between these legs, and we didn't really eat. We didn't rest. You were already going from interviews after the leg that just ended to trying to figure out where you are and where you might have to be within a few hours. So no, it's even the breaks aren't anything where you relax or the stress goes away. It's just the time to kind of figure out what the next leg is going to bring you.
What was kind of the best during that time? What was kind of the best experience or view at that time? Like, where was, like, when you went there, I know you're rushing around, you're going to different legs, you don't have any time to enjoy that as scenery. What do you, just that glimpse that you had, where was probably the best location that you were at, that you think?
There was this gorge in Peru, and we were zip lining down. It had to be, 12 or 1400 feet or whatever. And in the midst of that, I was just looking around, and, you can't believe you're getting to experience this sort of thing. And that's where it hit me. There might have been things that we did that were actually, a little more exciting and all that. But that's where I did have a break as you're going down this, scary zip line with, looking below at things that were the size of ants. And that was people or boats or whatever. And thinking how lucky you were to be there that moment. Probably the best moment was when we got to walk across some cooling towers in South Africa. And we ended up doing that on a rope ladder, 350 feet above, the bottom of the ground. And there's a helicopter right above us filming all this stuff. And we made it. Making it through allowed us to win 2 vehicles, 2 SUVs. It was really a awesome experience. So I could go on and on and on about that. Everything we did was, as I look back on it, more so than even when I did it, was an amazing experience.
Still got that SUV?
No, we got rid of those a while back. But it was it was the biggest prize ever given away in reality TV, besides the people that won the season we were on, because they won $1 million. But 2 vehicles, nobody won that before. But it's called the Cbs Car Curse. When you win those, inevitably, you get eliminated or voted out or whatever right after that. And that's what happened to us.
Well, and you probably, I can only imagine during this experience, you've made some good friends along the way with these individuals and groups.
That is the best thing about the experiences. I truly have lifelong friends and, people that I get to compare notes with and talk about interesting experiences that they might have had and I had, and just bonding, because everybody they cast are sort of similar. They're all type A plus or double A personalities, whatever. They're outgoing people that have very interesting stories behind them. And truly, the best friends I have now almost all come from that reality world. Old-time friends too, and people that you and I both know and I'll always be friends with. But that is easily the best part. And it still happens now. Every year I go and do a charity event. Several of them maybe, but one of them that I've done along with Mandy, as you know. And we've become great friends with people from all kinds of shows that just donate their time to raise money, in this case for Give Kids the World Village. We just went on a trip to Nashville with a group of them from different TV shows, just because we wanted to do some things together. So absolutely, the people we met is the best part of all that experience.
Talk a little bit about that charity. I know we've talked about, you've gone down to Florida. That's where the charity's located. Talk a little bit about how it feels to give back. Your TV reality, you get a variety of people that are fans watching your show and kind of making friends and talking with them over the years. To take that type of mentality and give back to the community. Talk a little bit about how that feels to you and what it means.
One of the days when we're down there, they take us to Give Kids the World Village. And, you'll watch this every year. The new people that were just on TV, and they come and they think, we're going to go to this fun event and have a good time and get to meet all these other people and have a party. They're, and everybody, again, they're outgoing, they're fun people. They're there for fun. They don't understand fully the reason that they're there. But the minute that you go to Give Kids the World Village and you see, the kids that are there, the families and what they're going through, and we ask them for their autographs. We spend the entire weekend signing autographs and doing things that involve fans of these shows. Nobody remembers me from way back, but the show that I represent, of course.
I do.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. But I'm there representing the amazing race along with other people. But all these people, wild, some of them young, and they're to have a good time. They walk in to Give Kids the World Village one way, and walk out completely changed. And you know, because you've done so much charity work, um, what inevitably that's all about, these kids and their families and what they go through. Um, and it makes me more determined every year to do whatever I can to help. And it's evolved from a fun weekend to getting to catch up with my friends, but also getting to go do something that really means something to a lot of people.
Well, and you actually kind of take that mentality and have kind of put it into the community in the Mahoning Valley. Talk a little bit about how you've given back and you kind of take that and say, hey, I loved what I was doing here. I've been doing it for years. I want to put my commitment in the community.
That boxing tournament that we were in was a charity event. I don't know that I would have did it if it wasn't, and I don't know if you would have done it if it wasn't. The basketball games of hope that you set up, the charity that you're involved with, all of that sort of thing. Anytime there's a way that I can help any of those, situations where it's for the greater good. That's just the way I want to be, and that means more to me than the experience itself. The people that you've helped through what you do. It means a lot to a lot of people, and I'm on board to help any way I could for
in that
national charities.
Yeah, and we talk, and like he was mentioning, the Fighting for Hope, which raised money for chronically and terminally ill kids, and we had amateur boxers, pro boxers. We had Lewis come in from where he lives from one of the reality shows as well, and I fought. My bout was against Jim Lowboy.
Jim Lowboy.
And it was a heck of a fight. That was, I like to say, that was my debut in retirement in the same night.
Well, what a way to have that. The crowd, the amount of people that were there.
I'm not gonna lie, I think we had about 3,000 people there, 2,000 to 3,000 people there. I think that's what people told me. I don't remember if it's true because as a person helping, you run around with your chicken with your head cut off.
We did. It was that many people easily, and it was an incredible night and experience.
And people stayed. People stayed. I mean, we had
hours and hours.
We had Kelly Pavlik. We had Henry Aurora. We had
Boom Boom.
Boom Boom was there. They all were there. It was a great success, and we raised quite a bit of money. It's funny because we talked about this because we trained together. Yes. And I will tell you, people don't realize to train for a fight, even as long as ours were, 3 rounds at 2 minutes or 3 minutes, I forget what it was, that's long.
Yeah, it is. It is. And, I'm in shape, and I thought, all right, I'm going to be all right with this. And I took a stress test or did a stress test before all that. And, but the level of what your adrenaline is and everything else, when you're up there and you're, especially a night like that, where there's, your first boxing match might be in front of a dozen people somewhere or whatever. There's thousands of people and TV cameras even and all kinds of things. Not to mention, in fact, I found out the hard way a year later that I shouldn't have been up there to begin with. I had a health issue that I didn't realize, and it made it next to impossible for me to breathe that night. So, that's a whole nother story. But the level, this area especially, the boxers you named and other people that were there, I felt almost like, I didn't want them to think that we knew what they do, and this was stepping on what they do. What they do is a commitment. It's a art. And they're great at it. What we did was a charity that let us, step a little foot into that. So having Boom Boom, who's my, lifelong friend, watch me do that is kind of like singing a solo in front of Frank Sinatra. You can't look good to that person, and you understand that because the level that they're at is a whole different level. But I love that experience, and I love the reason that we did it.
Oh, and people don't realize we had to get physicals before. We had to make sure we were in good health to even get cleared to do it. So it's just more than popping in the ring You had to learn how to hit the right way. You had to make sure you had the gear on properly. I mean, there's a whole process. You got to, I mean, Tommy Cordell and all those guys at Downtown Boxing, I commend them for all the help they gave me. I mean, I trained for almost probably 2 months. I mean, we almost did, because you got to get in shape. You got to run. I mean, it ain't no picnic.
No, we worked out together, and I can tell you that, man. And again, it's not the level that we would do it if we were a boxer the caliber of the people we named, but you had to put a serious effort in it. This wasn't going up there and putting a show on. This was the people were trying to win. You had to go in there in shape, and you had to practice that craft. You had to learn it.
Well, and it's funny because it's when you look back, you get your Facebook feeds, and you're like, oh wow, that was taped. And you go back and watch, you're like, oh boy, I look like I was not in shape, or like, what was I thinking? Or just, I mean, we give back to the communities because that's what we do, is give back.
Absolutely. And I think when you can do something that's an interesting, fun experience in the process of doing that, it makes it all the better.
Yeah, I agree. And we've done a lot of different stuff together. You were an honorary player in our Game of Hope because you couldn't play because of your leg.
Yeah.
You have a lot of different
training for that.
Yeah. So we have experience of just, this does not go well when you perform these things for us.
I never get hurt anywhere ever, and just those two events, I didn't get hurt in that boxing event, but I shouldn't have been up there with what I learned later on was wrong with me. But yeah, I did hurt my knee, getting ready for that basketball tournament. But I still would have done it again. It's just,
well, and it's funny because you're a man of many talents. You give back to the community. You're already in a band as well.
That's a way to blow off steam and have some fun and do some things that with people that are super talented in what they do. So yeah.
Do you plan any? And go ahead, and what band is it again, so people know?
The Classics is the name of it, and we've been together for 20 years, I think, somewhere around there. I'd have to add that all up. But we didn't do much of anything for a year, obviously. But we do expect that we will be back at some point. And honestly, life has just gone on so quickly after all the lockdowns and everything that's happened that we haven't really figured out what we're going to do and when, but we'll be back.
Anything planned for July or August, possibly?
Private things. We were, people have reached out and talked to us about that, and we booked some of those, but we're really not certain yet, other than that, where we're going to be.
Well, if people wanted to follow you, where would they be able to follow your band? Because I could tell you probably right now that I've been hearing a lot of different things from people saying, hey, the summer's coming. Well, we're pretty much almost in it. That they want to get out and just outside patio. You see a lot more patios now forming at a lot of these places. So if someone wanted to go and, hey, listen to you, and what kind of music do you play? Well, the classics. Where would they find you? Yeah, where would they find you?
Facebook, the Classics. We have a Facebook page. Excuse me. And I'd say that's the best way to kind of get information on us and updated schedules and all that. And there's even some clips of what we do on there. But other than that, there's really nothing new right now out there that we're looking at. But I expect that will be different in a little bit. Bars and some of the venues we're normally at, they're trying to figure out what they're going to do next and what they're going to be allowed to do. So as that progresses, we'll have more information up there.
So what's next? What's next in the Rays' future?
I like my life where it is. I don't know that I'm looking to reach out and do much more of anything other than, continue to do the things that I love to do. And I don't see any end to that. I'm not looking to get out of this industry. I'm not looking, if an opportunity arose to come and be on another, adventure through a reality TV show, I would absolutely look at that. But I'm not actively trying to do much of anything different than just enjoy the wonderful life that I have right now.
Not a problem. Well, we appreciate you taking time. I know it's kind of a busy season, but at the same time, we're all kind of stuck at home / office in some capacity. If someone wants to get a hold of you for financial or just, hey, would you be interested in chatting about your amazing race experience? Where can people find you?
Facebook, I'd say, would be the best way to reach out to me in that regard. Funny, real quick, just as the pandemic started, I started giving some general advice. I can't specifically, give financial advice there, but just trying to make people understand a little bit more about what was going on. And a lot of people ended up reaching out to me through Facebook, and I helped them even if they didn't want to, do anything with me or my firm, just giving advice, and I'm perfectly fine doing that. So look me up on Facebook, the name you see spelled right there. And
I appreciate it, Ray. It's always a pleasure.
Tony, always good talking to you, buddy, and hopefully I'll see you soon.
Oh, we will. Don't worry. We'll be coming to one of your things. So at the end of each show, I like to have some fun with my guests. You up for a little fun at the end?
Absolutely. What do you need?
Just for the record, he doesn't know the questions I'm going to ask.
Oh, boy.
So just he's not prepared for these. That's the fun part about these. So any answer can be personal or professional. It's your prerogative. In my opinion, there's no right or wrong answer.
All right.
What's your best accomplishment?
Besides being a father, I think, which is what I would name for every question maybe that you would give me. So putting that aside, I think, I don't know, I'm proud of a lot of things I did in life. I look back on so many things that I was lucky to experience. And I'm not saying that the best accomplishment of my life was being on The Amazing Race or anything like that. I think just the way that I was raised put me in so many situations that I can't give you a specific answer to that. Whether it's the boxing tournament we got to do or The Amazing Race or, being in my high school Hall of Fame or things of that nature. I was brought up with qualities that allowed me to accomplish a lot of things that I'm really happy that I accomplished. I'm proud of. I can't give you one specific.
Nothing wrong
other
with
than
that.
The personal, the father. I'm very proud of
nothing
that.
wrong. There's nothing wrong with that. What's your best memory?
My best memory would have to be related to The Amazing Race because it's so unique. Nobody was walking those water towers in South Africa, 350 feet above on a rope ladder that was, hard to even stand on with a helicopter right above you filming it, knowing millions of people are going to be watching that. And knowing that nobody else will ever do it. It wasn't a ride that they set up. I mean, that was there for other people to do. That was set up specifically for us. No other person ever experienced that before or after we did. So it's so unique that I got to go back to that as that would be my most memorable experience.
What about best experience?
Best experience? Watching my kids being born.
Okay.
Again, easily that would be it.
Okay. Who's your role model?
That's a really good question. I don't try.
That's why I asked these questions. They're harder than the ones I actually asked earlier.
Yeah, they are. I have to think about that. There's nobody that I look at as the inspiration and everything. My father, again, having it on a personal level, is a person that I don't think whatever I do in life I could ever live up to. I could never be the person that he is. But me trying to get to that level, I think, has made me what I am. And I also look up to my brother Gary, who's fighting a battle that I couldn't come close to fighting the way he is. And he's dealing with stage 4 cancer, and he's handling it as if it's just a bad day. Like you have a cold or whatever. So I admire that. Personal, personal people that I interact with, I would tend to go that route as opposed to somebody I look up to that's a national person or on that.
Prayers to Gary, because we all know
Thank
Gary.
you.
We see him. I see him when I referee high school basketball. I see him at the football games. He's all over. I think it keeps him busy, and it keeps him just enjoying life.
4 years he's dealt with that stage 4 cancer. You couldn't tell that. And you've seen him, and he's never looks any different from day to day, and he's doing exactly.
Well, hasn't it come back a couple times?
It has, and he's dealt with it when it did, and I can't imagine that. Getting to the point where you think I got this beat, I had a beat, and it comes back, and you got to start that battle all over again. But he does it. He does it better than anybody I can imagine would.
And prayers go out to him and his family.
Yes, thank you.
So, if there was one person you would want to meet, past or present, who would it be and why?
Oh, wow.
Sorry, they're not finance questions.
I'd say Warren Buffett, because he is tied into the financial industry that I'm tied into. I don't agree with a lot of what he does, and I'm the kind of person that almost likes to debate almost any issue. So I would want to have a debate with Warren Buffett on his financial strategy. Now, he's much more accomplished than I am, but I still like to trade ideas and question people that I might admire their accomplishments, even if I don't agree with everything that they've done to get there. So, being that he's had such a rich history in an industry that I've been in for 3 decades, I think Warren Buffett would be a fair answer.
Okay, nothing wrong with that. Well, Ray, always a pleasure.
Tony, same here. Thank you for asking me, and I had a good time, and I look forward to seeing you.
Always a pleasure. Everyone, thank you for joining us tonight. If you want to get a hold of Ray, Facebook, financial advisor, TV reality star, band. He's the one man of many talents.
Thank you,
if you want to see more interviews and podcasts, go to anthonyvspano.com. Everyone, stay safe and God bless. Good night.